In 1988, the world made a promise to create a future where no child anywhere would live in fear of polio. Since then, our progress has been groundbreaking. The combined efforts of health workers and their governments, communities, donors and partners have reduced the number of children paralyzed by polio by 99% and brought the world to the verge of ending this disease for good. Now, we are at a critical point. COVID-19 set us back, while misinformation and access issues prevent us from reaching every community with vaccines, allowing polio to persist and spread. The consequences of failure are high. We risk a global resurgence of polio and thousands more children paralyzed every year. But the opportunity to deliver on our promise of a polio-free world is enormous. Success begins with supporting the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. GPEI has continually adapted to overcome challenges, drive progress, and get us closer to zero. And its new strategy harnesses the solutions and tools we need to end polio once and for all. This includes renewed urgency, innovation, and increased collaboration to reach every last child and focus on integrating polio vaccination into broader health services for communities at high risk of polio. Working together as leaders of polio-affected countries, donors and partners, we can overcome the final hurdles to eradication and help prepare countries to respond to future health threats, just as GPEI responded to COVID-19. With your continued support, we will achieve a polio-free world. Let us keep our promise and make polio history together.
Thank you so very much. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ridi Tlhabi. I'm a journalist from Johannesburg, South Africa. It's a great honor to be your MC today at this polio pledging moment at the World Health Summit here in Berlin. Thank you so much for the warm hospitality to the government here in Germany. Thanks indeed. And of course, we welcome those of you who are joining us digitally too. So 30 years ago, countries and partners all over the world came together to make a commitment to eradicate one of the most debilitating diseases in the world. And for those of us who come from Africa, we've seen it, we've been in school with children who had polio and always wondered, why are they different? What is it that separates them from us? It is about commitment, it is about resources, and that is why we are here today. So much suffering has been averted through all this global collaboration and mobilizing expertise, empathy, and resources. It's all very well to pat ourselves on the back and say, job well done, but the challenges to eradicate polio and secure a polio-free future remains. And of course, with COVID-19, it has put pressure on health systems across the world. So today we really are here to renew our commitment, to mobilize resources, and to remind ourselves that it is not just about tackling one disease, as important as that is. It is also about responding to the health needs of vulnerable securities. When we tackle polio, we also support the economic aspirations of those communities. We will hear this afternoon from very inspirational speakers. We will learn, we will reflect, and hopefully challenge ourselves to mobilize those resources to secure a polio-free future. I'm so delighted to welcome our co-host for this event, and that is the Honorable Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development here in Germany. Honorable Minister Svenja Schulz, welcome.
Excellencies, Dr. Tedros, Ms. Russell, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome here to Berlin, and I would like to welcome you to this important, really important global health event to the replenishment conference for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. We can look back on successful cooperation with the initiative. For more than 30 years, we have jointly worked hard to eradicate polio. And except for a very small number of places, nearly all countries in the world are now polio-free. That is a huge success. The only protection against polio is the vaccine, and it provides 100% protection. While the COVID-19 pandemic caused some setbacks because some immunization campaigns could not be held as planned, we have still come closer than ever to our goal of eradicating polio worldwide. In an unprecedented collaboration effort, international organizations, governments, donors, health workers, scientists, and civil society have worked toward that goal. This oldest public-private partnership in global health has been and remains the foundation for the success of the polio campaign. But even if there are only a few countries and regions left that are still affected by polio, our job is far from over. It would be fatal to relent in our efforts now because our achievements are fragile. A disease can spread very quickly again from one place to another in our interconnected world. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how quickly a virus is able to spread from one country to another. And recently, there have been polio cases again in countries such as Malawi, Mozambique, Israel, and the US, where the disease had been considered eradicated a long time ago. So I would like to repeat what we heard so often and what is still so important for our work. No place is safe until polio has been eradicated everywhere. So it is vital that we finish the job. The people working for the polio initiative have adopted the ambitious goal of completely eradicating all forms of polio by 2026. We are here today in order to lend support to that goal. Jointly, we, all of us here, have to make sure that the GPEI can count on our financial support. With the financial resources we are jointly committing today, the initiative will be able to immunize nearly 370 million children against polio every year. It enables them also to fund laboratories and vital monitoring activities in order to respond quickly to outbreaks of polio and also other infectious diseases. These infrastructure, laboratories, cold chains, health personnel also facilitates the fight against other diseases such as Ebola or the measles. And it has been a major asset in many countries respond to COVID-19. So we can see that by supporting the GPEI, we are also strengthening national health systems far beyond polio. And this is why Germany will remain a strong and committed partner in the global fight against polio. It is my pleasure to confirm the commitment made by Chancellor Schulz on Saturday. This year, 2022, Germany will provide 35 million euros for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, plus Plus, I have the honor and the privilege to announce today, on the condition of approval of the German Bundestag, Germany will provide additional 37 million euros for 2023. You all know that is not enough, so I am pleased that other donors and partners too will use this conference to confirm their support for a polio-free world. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, it suddenly feels like Christmas here. Thank you and congratulations. And of course, we did say that it is a challenge for other donors and other partners to also raise the bar. We are humbled by your leadership, your heart, and your commitment. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We'll hear from you again in just a few minutes. It is now my singular pleasure to welcome to the stage the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, to come and speak to us, particularly about a theme that we just touched on briefly in my introduction, that the investment in polio, it is about the broader impact and the broader commitments and achievements. So please come and talk to us about that theme. Thanks indeed.
Thank you, moderator. And thank you, Your Excellency, Minister Schulz, my good friend. And I'm really happy because you must have a difficult one, especially before the Parliament agreement, but it shows the commitment of the government, and we really appreciate that. Your Excellency, Minister Schulz, Your Excellency, Minister Patel, all protocols observed, my dear colleagues, members of the board, excellencies, dear colleagues and friends. I thank the government of Germany and Your Excellency, Minister Schulz, for your long-standing commitment to polio eradication and for co-hosting this pledging event. And I remember our exchanges last week. That has shown me the strong commitment that you have. So vielen Dank. On behalf of WHO and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, I welcome all our donors and partners. In the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in Cairo is the mummy of Siptah, who ruled Egypt as a child in the 12th century until he died aged around 16. A deformity in his left foot suggests Siptah likely had polio. This is a disease that has haunted humanity for millennia. And now we stand on the threshold of eradicating it forever. Since GPEI was launched in 1988, we have reduced the number of cases reported each year from an estimated 350,000 to just 6 last year, a reduction of 99%. That has meant more than 20 million cases of paralysis averted, and the lives of 1.5 million children saved. And I would like to recognize the Rotary Club for being a pathfinder to the eradication effort that we're still pushing. Thank you. However, there are challenges that we're facing. We took 20 cases in Pakistan, 2 in Afghanistan, and 6 in Mozambique. Meanwhile, a case of vaccine-derived polio in the United States and the discovery of poliovirus in sewage in the United Kingdom show that until polio is eradicated everywhere, it remains a threat anywhere. We face many challenges, including misinformation, hard-to-access populations, and community fatigue. Historic backsliding of immunization programs, which deliver polio vaccine to most of the world's children, has added to the challenges. The GPEI 5-year strategy is designed to overcome these challenges with proven solutions, adaptation, and innovation tools. This includes integrating polio activities in routine immunization and other essential health programs in affected countries. It includes rolling out type 2 novel oral polio vaccine to help stop variant poliovirus outbreaks more sustainably. This effort is well on the way, with more than 500 million doses already administered. And it includes continuing the GPEI commitment to empowering women at all levels of the program. Gender equality is critical to achieving eradication, because in many of the most affected communities, only women are allowed access to homes and children other than their own. But this strategy can only succeed if it's fully funded. I urge all donors to be part of history by contributing to the $4.8 billion target to end polio for good. As you may know, outside WHO's headquarters in Geneva is a statue commemorating the only human disease in history to be eradicated: smallpox. I like statues. I want to add to our collection. And I believe we can do it together. We're privileged as a global health community to live at this time, to witness the end of polio. We can do it. We must do it. So let's do it. I thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Tedros, for your message of hope, and that word again, challenge and commitment. We must do it. Right now, it's a pleasure to start a conversation. I'd love to be joined by some esteemed panelists. When I call your name, please come forward and we'll begin our conversation. And because we're always under pressure for time, I am going to ask that you speak within the time allocated for you, which is 3 minutes per speaker for the panel discussion. Without much waste of time, Ms. Catherine Russell, Executive Director of UNICEF, please take your seat. Yes. And you will be followed by the Honorable Mr. Abdul Kadir Patel, Federal Minister for Ministry of National Health Services, Regulation and Coordination, Pakistan. Dr. Seth Berkley, CEO of Gavi. Thank you. And Dr. Rochelle Walensky, Director, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Thank you. Let me start with you, Ms. Catherine Russell. We spoke earlier about COVID-19 and the pressure it has put on health systems, and of course, slowing down our journey towards the achievement of SDGs. So I want to know then from you, how will supporting polio eradication have benefits beyond fighting just one disease?
Thank you so much, Reddy. I'd just like to make a couple of points if I could. First, I think that what we've seen so far is that supporting polio eradication has already brought benefits that extend beyond defeating polio, which is really critical. And I think one thing to say is that this effort is really one of the most equitable public health programs in history. To get this far, health workers have had to reach virtually every household with the polio vaccine, which is really amazing when you think about that. From the densest cities to the most remote communities, and really in some very, very dangerous places. So thanks to the support of donors, many of whom are here today, the GPE has been invested heavily in vaccination cold chain systems, in nationwide communication and influencer networks, and in the best disease surveillance, which has been incredibly important. And this massive effort has helped us push the virus to the brink of eradication, as you said. So one important point about that is that the polio workforce and infrastructure have also been delivering other important health services to children for many years, including routine immunizations, hand washing, birth registration, and things like that, which are incredibly important. For example, in 2020, numerous countries across Africa and Asia used existing polio infrastructure and resources in mounting the first COVID pandemic response, which we wouldn't necessarily connect them, but they are connected. The polio eradication strategy is focused on going beyond the 2 drops and further integrating polio activities and other essential health interventions, and in strengthening health systems along the way. And I saw that in Afghanistan and Pakistan, where we were doing polio work, but also doing health systems and delivery. And it was really incredible to see. And these integrated interventions are building trust in communities, which is critical, and helping contribute to overall health and well-being of children. So when polio is finally eradicated, which it will be, polio immunization can be scaled down, and all of those resources can be used for other purposes, which is incredibly important. So I would say most important of all, eradicating polio once and for all means that no child and no adult will have to face disability or physical limitations caused by polio ever again, which will be an amazing feat.
Oh, thank you. And you mentioned Pakistan. So let's come to you then, Honorable Minister Patel. Everywhere, all over the world, there are competing national priorities. We are reporting now about the devastating floods in Pakistan, yet your government still focuses on polio eradication. Why?
Thank you very much. First of all, Excellencies, global partners, organizers, respectable guests, all sitting here in this August House, thank you very much for having me here today. The recent flood in Pakistan has indeed been a huge disaster, pushing us at least 30 years back. Despite the economic challenges, the government at every level is working around the clock to provide emergency relief support to more than 33 million people affected by flooded through Benazir Income Support Program by allocating US $32.2 million for flood relief, and we will continue this help to our communities. At the same time, I'm thankful to the world and every country which has helped Pakistan in these difficult times. As you are aware, much more needs to be done. Regarding polio, which has and shall remain topmost health priorities of my government, since we recognize this historical opportunity that we have to finally wipe out this disease. My Prime Minister has recently directed to the National Polio Task Force, eradicating polio fully, and we are actively working to end this menace. 2 decades ago, polio paralyzed more than 1,000 children in Pakistan every year. Imagine, despite floods, we have managed to vaccinate 33 million children in our August 22 campaign, and also implemented a special polio vaccination round in targeted areas in September in coordination with Afghanistan polio program. The figure of polio cases in Pakistan is now in single digit, which is reflection of our commitment and our consistent support. Despite the challenge of COVID-19 security situation and floods, we are trying to level best to ensure that the work is done and task is accomplished. Excellencies, we have lost 27 polio workers shot dead by anti-polio terrorists in Pakistan, as they use religion as a tool to ensure that people don't get vaccinated against the disease. Our security forces, putting their lives in danger, continue to provide security cover to the polio workers. Excellencies, during my recent meeting in WHO 69th session At the sideline in Egypt, I met with the more recognized clerk of Islamic world, Mufti Sheikh al-Arab at Al-Azhar University in Egypt, Professor Sheikh Imam Dr. Muhammad Tayyib. On my special request, he issued a religious decree, a fatwa to the whole Muslim world, quote, unquote, quote, Al-Azhar warns against fatwas prohibiting vaccine for children against polio in Pakistan and stresses that the vaccine is the religious, medical, and humanitarian duty, unquote. I continue to be personally involved in the movement against polio, and I take it a personal cause. I have visited the northern area, the areas like North Waziristan, close to Pakistan, Afghan border, which the leadership has generally avoided in the past, only for my people and for this great cause of polio eradication. In the end, I would like to add the supporting polio eradication means addressing multiple challenges at the same time, including delivering border health benefits to communities, empowerment, female healthcare workers, and strengthening our health system. We ask our partners to stay with us for polio eradication from the world, so that we can achieve history together. As disease has no boundaries. I'm thankful for you all for supporting this great cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And it is quite overwhelming to hear the mammoth task that lies ahead and the challenges that you daily have to navigate. Thank you for your message today. Dr. Beckley, let's come to you. So part of the new strategy for the GPEI strategy is to achieve zero-dose children. So we want to know, how is the work unfolding in that area, and particularly your plans to reach unvaccinated children?
So thanks so much for that question, and thank you for bringing up the polio workers who have been killed. They are the true heroes. Dr. Tedros talked about the 34-year history from going from 350,000 cases to a few, and Minister Schulz talked about we're only safe unless we're all safe, which cuts across many diseases. The way this polio work had traditionally been done was to reach children with those famous 2 drops. And this was done regularly. Now, of course, the dirty secret is that children are being born every day. And what we really need to do is to reach children, all children, with all vaccines. And the observation we made is that immunization is the most widely distributed of all health interventions. It reaches about 90% of families globally. But that last 10%, 50% of the child mortality is there, and also 2/3 of those families are below the poverty line. So our strategy is to try to extend that immunization system to get as close as we can, literally, to everybody and leave no one behind. And this is where the work fits together, because polio has been brilliant at finding families that have been left out of polio efforts, tracking them, micro-planning, and how we bring that together and ultimately bring these families that are left out of the system for multiple things into the system, get them routine vaccines. It reduces the need for the polio program to reach out to them. And of course, then we can have more and more concentrated campaigns to reach those that we can't at this moment get into the system. But that is the right thing for us to do. And it is ultimately the way we will make the most difference to the population, as well as the Honorable Minister said, is to help the community see the effects of all of these diseases being reduced and not just polio.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beckley. Thank you. Let me come to you then. Oh, of course. Why not? The Director in the Center for Disease Control, Dr. Rochelle Walensky. So we saw during COVID-19 how the GPEI supported country responses to the pandemic, and every scientist and social scientists have been telling us that we haven't seen the last of pandemic outbreaks. Specifically with polio, how does supporting polio eradication program have an impact generally on pandemic preparedness? And I suppose an important message for countries to think about and invest in global health security.
Great, thank you for that question. Let me just first say I'm honored to be here representing the United States government and our strong commitment to eradicating polio. We're proud to join member nations in working towards a time where no child, regardless of where they live, ever experiences paralytic polio again. Sustaining polio efforts and achieving transmission control and eradication, in fact, is essential to enhancing global health security. The polio program has a long history of supporting health crises and was essential to the COVID-19 response across Africa and the endemic countries of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Playing a vital role in disease surveillance, community engagement, public health communications, and vaccine rollout. And many of you remember how vital the polio infrastructure was in Nigeria in ending the 2014 Ebola transmission in Lagos. The United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention is a spearheading partner whose polio lab not only serves as a global reference laboratory, but also plays a key role in maintaining the Global Polio Lab network that not only supports polio eradication, but jump-started critical diagnostics in COVID-19, Ebola, and measles. USAID's continuous support for facility and community-based disease surveillance helped detect and respond to cases of wild and vaccine-derived polio and other diseases in over 25 countries. USAID's support to civil society networks in reducing vaccine hesitancy for COVID-19 and other vaccine-preventable diseases, as well as addressing gender disparities in vaccination. Polio is not over as transmission continues in both Afghanistan and Pakistan, and as shown with recent detections in the UK, the United States, and Israel. The politicization of vaccination means there are growing pockets of low immunity in most countries. No one is safe as long as polio in any form continues to circulate. The United States has proudly supported the Global Polio Eradication Initiative since it began in 1988, and the United States Congress has provided over $4.3 billion. And together with the USAID, our agency made a direct contribution to GPEI that totaled over $114 million in 2021, an amount we intend to continue as if our appropriations allow so. This funding and these efforts through these efforts, the United States reaffirms its commitment to eradicating polio. Together, we must and we will reach every child. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists, Catherine Russell, Your Excellency, Honorable Patel, Dr. Beckley, and Dr. Walensky. We are inspired. We are reminded of the importance of collaboration, but also that we are a global community. We must care. What happens in Pakistan affects us all. We cannot let our guard down. Thank you, all of you. You may take your seats. Thank you. So in this next segment, we'd like to highlight the role of multilateral development banks in boosting health outcomes. And for this, please help me welcome from the European Investment Bank, Gelsomina Vigliotti, Vice President of the European Investment Bank.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here today on behalf of the European Investment Bank, and at such an important moment in the pursuit of polio eradication. The European Investment Bank has a track record in supporting programs to combat communicable diseases, and we remain committed to disease eradication. We have also stepped up our support for global health initiatives in recent years. We provided nearly 60 billion euro to support the adverse health and economic consequences of the pandemic, with much of this funding going to low-income countries. The bank maintains a focus on health and development to ensure that it remains a priority as the world faces other difficult challenges like climate change, food security, and political instability, just to name a few. We actively seek to work with partners to build on the strengths and resources of each organization to maximize the impact of our interventions. The EIB recognizes the historic opportunity to potentially eradicate polio and the need to unite behind achieving this goal. An investment in polio eradication brings health and economic benefits beyond fighting a single disease and provides an important opportunity to strengthen health systems. The EIB looks forward to working with global partners to understand how we can contribute to establishing polio eradication and reinforce communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vigliotti. We appreciate your leadership and your commitment. Now, please help me welcome now our next guest and longtime supporter of polio eradication, His Excellency, Dr. Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Rabia, Supervisor General of King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. Welcome.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the humanitarian community anxiously awaits the day we can declare that the world is a polio-free. COVID-19 pandemic, the global food crisis, and other issues must not deter us from providing polio vaccines to areas where the disease is endemic. Over the past years, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has provided contributions in the amount of more than 72 million to UNICEF, WHO, and Gavi to combat polio. In continuation with these efforts, I'm pleased to announce that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has signed yesterday 2 important agreements to prevent and also respond to polio in high-risk countries, including our lovely country of Pakistan, in partnership with WHO and UNICEF in the amount of $10 million. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will continue to support the global efforts to eradicate polio, either directly through KS Relief or also with our valuable partners, United Nations agencies, and global actors. Thank you.
Dr. Al Rabia, thank you very much for your message, your generosity and leadership, which has stood the test of time. Thanks indeed. So I'm very excited to welcome our next speaker. We had a Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I was inspired by you, and I was looking forward to this moment of talking to you today. Our next guest is a well-known polio advocate, survivor, and world champion endurance athlete. Please welcome Minda Dentler to the stage for a conversation. So you and I are the same age. We are both mothers of girls. Our lives have turned out differently. The difference between you and I, the reason I'm not in a wheelchair is because I got vaccinated. You didn't. You were born in India, went full circle, grew up in the United States. Talk to us about your journey.
Sure. Yes, so as you mentioned, I contracted polio as a baby in India, and my legs are paralyzed. My birth mother realized that she couldn't take care of me, and so she left me at an orphanage. And I spent the next 2.5 years there. And because of my polio, my legs were locked in a seated position. Fortunately, I was adopted by an American family, and I moved to Spokane, Washington at the age of 3. And over the next few years, I underwent a series of surgeries on my hips and my legs and my back that allowed me to walk with leg braces and crutches. As a child, I struggled with my disability. I felt like I didn't fit in. People often talked over me or disregarded me altogether. But I internalized my parents' view that I wasn't going to let my disability hold me back. And so it didn't. I graduated from college. I earned an MBA, built a career in a Fortune 100 company. I became an Ironman world champion. I got married, and I have a daughter.
Sure.
Thanks. I'm fully aware that my future as a person living with polio would have been completely different had I not been adopted. Yet polio still impacts me to this day. For example, I need to take extra steps to do simple things like leave the house, get in a car, or take my daughter to school. And I always have to ask for help to reach high shelves, carry my bags, or even take the garbage out. These are all things that I wouldn't have to do if I did not have polio.
You returned to India, right? Working with Rotary to support a polio eradication program there. I'd like to get an idea of that moment of returning to where it first began and why being part of global efforts to eradicate polio in your country of birth, why that is important to you.
Yes. So in 2015, I returned to India for the first time as an adult, and I joined Rotary and their partners in a national immunization campaign, which reached 172 million children in just 5 days. And in the back streets of New Delhi, mothers offered their babies to me, and I gave them each 2 drops of the life-saving polio vaccine. That was a full circle moment. My birth mother didn't have access to the vaccine when I was a baby in India, and I contracted polio. I had a daughter, and I was able to get her immunized. And now I was in India giving the vaccine to other children for their mothers. This experience really impacted me. It showed me the importance of continuing to be an advocate for immunization. I feel proud that India has eliminated polio. Many people thought that India couldn't do it. It had too much to overcome. But India has now been certified polio-free for 8 years, and the rest of the world is almost there.
Sure. The rest of the world is almost there, but you must have some hopes and aspirations for this final stretch, particularly everything we've heard this morning, the danger that healthcare workers, polio workers are facing in countries like Pakistan, the politicization, the misinformation, all of that. You must have some hopes for this final stretch. What are they?
Yes. So, as a mother, I often think about the next generation of children and their health. And I remember when my daughter was 2 months old, I took her to get her first polio vaccine. It was very emotional for me. I realized then that my daughter's life would be very different from mine. She will never be faced with the crippling disability of polio simply because she had access to a vaccine. And she can do anything she wants, like play in the ocean. But that's not the same for all the world's children and their mothers, as polio continues to be a real threat in the world. And now with the recent detection of polio in the US, it is yet another reminder that as long as polio is a threat anywhere, it's still a threat everywhere. No child should have to live with paralysis by polio, especially when it's completely preventable with a vaccine. And my hope is that all children, including my daughter, will soon live in a polio-free world. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make this happen, once and for all future generations. And now with the GPEI and the Endgame plan, we know that we already have the tools and strategies in place to achieve eradication. We now need renewed commitments from partners in this room to make this hope a reality.
Minda Dentler. Thank you. Now that is the impact you have on all of us. Thank you so very much, Minda. And your message has landed, it is resonating, it is powerful, and we are thankful for the generosity of sharing your life and making a difference in so many people's lives. Thank you. You mentioned earlier, Minister Svenja Schulz, that gender is a powerful determinant of health outcomes. And when it comes to immunizations, the UN Gender Development Index shows that countries with a high level of gender equality do have higher immunization coverage. I would like now to welcome you once again, Honorable Minister, to share information about Germany's commitments towards achieving gender equality as a path to improving health outcomes.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, empowering women and girls is absolutely vital if we want to succeed in eradicating polio. We know that vaccination rates for girls tend to be lower exactly in those places where gender inequalities are deeply rooted within societies. In some regions, women are not allowed to travel alone in order to use health services for themselves and for their children. Lower education levels among mothers are often associated with lower vaccination rates among children. And at the same time, women health workers are key players for polio eradication, as male workers are often only given access to households if male family members are present. So in order to achieve our common goal of eradicating polio, it is vital to address these gender-based barriers. Only then vaccines will reach girls and boys equally. So that is why Germany supports the GPEI gender equality strategy. In the German government, we attach great importance to tackling inequalities in the health sectors at the root. So this is fully in line with the feminist development policy in which the German government and I personally are committed. So I think that is really an important topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will spend the next section hearing some pledges and inspirational messages. But to start off with, we're going to meet 3 polio workers who will show us why, indeed, Minister, women are so important to the eradication effort.
I joined polio program in order to help my community.
خدمت کوچکی به طفل افغانستان خو میکنم که پولیو از بین بره فلاج اطفال.
जब इंट्रा कैंपेन में ये डोर टू डोर जाती हैं तो सबसे पहला काम जो हम करने जा रहे हैं वो यही है कि हर बच्चे को वैक्सीनेट करें.
دیگه تقریبا روز 100 خانه ما میبینیم که در مجموع طفل نو که باز طفل است 170 یا 180 طفل ما واکسین میکنه.
This is not an easy work. I usually work 5 to 6 hours every day.
जब मैं इस यूसी में आई तो यूसी में रिफ्यूजल्स की तादाद बहुत ज़्यादा थी.
At times, I met an angry mother or father who attack, abuse, and even threaten my life.
हर माँ पढ़ी लिखी नहीं होती है और हर माँ को ये अंदाज़ा नहीं होता कि इसकी क्या आफादियत हो सकती है, तो हमने कोशिश की कि उनके लिए आसानियाँ पैदा करें.
In my community, there was a family who always reject polio vaccination. After several visits, I was able to convince them. Now, all their eligible children are now vaccinated. This makes me feel happy.
دیگه خیلی خوشم که رضاکار و ما دوست داریم که ما دوست داریم که خدمت به جامعه خوب بکنه. ما خانم‌ها دوست داریم که
इस कैंपेन के बाद हम 139 रिफ्यूजल्स पे स्टिल आए हैं और मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है इंशाल्लाह हम नेक्स्ट कैंपेन में इन तमाम रिफ्यूजल्स में से भी कवरेज ज़रूर करेंगे.
Together we can end polio in Nigeria, Africa and the world. I will try my best. Hope you will too.
From Pakistan and Nigeria, we now travel to hear from another woman who has been central in polio eradication, Dr. Rose Ghana Fobman-Leke, Chair of the African Regional Certification Committee for Polio Eradication, recently joined forces with health experts and scientists from around the world to stress the urgency needed to eradicate polio once and for all. Let's hear from her.
Greetings to all eradication partners, donors, global leaders who are in Berlin today, and all who are tuning from around the world. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you at this pivotal moment in our campaign against polio. I'm here today with an urgent message from the world's scientists, physicians, and public health experts. We must end polio, and we must do it now. To convey the urgency of a plea, I've partnered with 9 other experts from around the world to launch a scientific declaration on polio eradication. The declaration shares our concerns about the very real challenges on the road ahead, but also our confidence in the plan to overcome them. So far, over 2,000 scientists, physicians, and health experts from 100 countries have signed the declaration, calling on the global community to prioritize this vital work. Because ending polio is not only feasible, it is worth it. We fully support the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and ask you, all of you, to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I want to share another resounding endorsement of the need to eradicate polio, this time from a global network of parliamentarians. They are committed to keeping the world moving forward on global health.
Imagine a world free of polio. This is not only a utopian dream, but within reach. While polio was one of the most feared diseases of the 20th century, it is now close to eradication, thanks to science, global cooperation, and long-term investment. But recent detections remind us that polio is only a plane ride away. It is time for action now. As parliamentarians, we are committed to make polio a disease of the past, A sustained investment in polio eradication is needed to overcome the final hurdle so that no child is paralyzed by this disease again. This investment will also contribute to our efforts to strengthen health systems against future health threats. The Unite Network is committed to support the fight against polio and urges all governments to unite and achieve a healthier, polio-free world for all. Together, let's achieve something historical. Together, we can end polio.
So now, to better prepare countries against future health threats and guarantee future generations are free of polio, the GPEI must be fully funded. We are now going to hear from donors, country leaders, and partners joining today to reaffirm the global commitments to eradication and pledge these urgent resources that are needed to implement the 2022-2026 GPEI strategy. We'll begin with two virtual messages from honorable ministers from Australia and France.
Since it was launched in 1988, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative has made dramatic progress. Wild polio has decreased by more than 99%. A polio-free world is in sight, but the job is not done, and progress is fragile. There are new outbreaks, vaccine hesitancy, and disruption to routine immunisations because of COVID. These have all increased the risk of further spread. Australia is a long-standing partner in the fight against polio and in building more resilient health systems. Today, the Australian Government is proud to pledge $43.55 million to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. This is for the Polio Eradication Strategy 2022-26. This is to help end polio once and for all. Our government's contribution is a 10% increase compared with the previous funding cycle. Importantly, our pledge incorporates a $2.3 million contribution on behalf of Rotarians across Australia, fulfilling an election commitment. I want to pay tribute to Rotary clubs and Rotarians around the world for their dedication to the cause of polio eradication. I'm pleased our investment will help procure vaccines, strengthen surveillance, mount immunisation campaigns and integrate polio activities into routine immunisation systems. Today's event marks an important chapter in our collective response to global health security. It's a crucial moment as we strive to eliminate human suffering caused by infectious diseases. Together we can achieve a safer region and world, a world where no child is paralysed by polio again. Since it was launched in
Dear Director of the WHO, my brother Dr. Tedros, dear Director of UNICEF, dear Federal Minister, dear Svenja, dear Ministers, dear all. First of all, I would like to apologize for not being able to join you for this crucial summit, which takes place at a historical time for the future of global health. In particular, this is an historical time because we have never been so close to eradicating polio. Over the past 30 years, we have reduced cases by 90.9%. We owe this wonderful victory to the global administration of the polio vaccine, and we owe this vaccination effort to a terrific international mobilization. I would like to underline the action of Gavi, which France is proud to support since the very first day. We have all seen the resurgence of polio cases this year. It does not indicate a failure. It reminds us of the threat polio will continue to pose to global health until it is completely gone. Systematic routine immunization for all under all circumstances is the solution. Today, we are almost there, and we must step up our efforts. As you know, President Emmanuel Macron and the French government, we are particularly engaged on global health challenges. That is why France has decided to make a special contribution of 50 million euros to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative to help implement its 2022-2026 strategy. In this final sprint, this initiative should cooperate and act in synergy with the World Health Organization, UNICEF and Gavi. It should also make sure that the resources used to tackle polio are integrated in health systems in order to strengthen them on the long term. With our contribution, France wants to send a message of hope and certitude that we can achieve a future without polio. We can hope that this success paves the way for eradicating other infectious diseases such as AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria, especially after the last Global Fund replenishment in which France took a major part once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we know the solution and we know how to implement them. The key is now our collective mobilization. So let's move on fast and together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Ministers from France and Australia. Right now, I would like to invite His Excellency Yanagi Hidenao, Ambassador of Japan to Germany, who will deliver a message on behalf of Prime Minister Fumio Kishida.
I'd like to appreciate the Honorable Minister Schulz for her leadership and to GPEI partners, including Dr. Tedros, Director General of WHO, and Ms. Russell, Executive Director of UNICEF, for their efforts to realize today's polio pledging moment. Japan appreciates the contributions that the GPEI's efforts to eradicate polio have made also toward achieving a goal of universal health coverage, and I'm honored to deliver today's message from Prime Minister Kishida on his behalf. So, Japan has long prioritized polio eradication as a global public health challenge shared by all humankind. To this end, Japan has contributed approximately $600 million to date through bilateral assistance as well as through aid in cooperation with partners such as GPEI, UNICEF, WHO, and Gavi. This includes our most recent contribution of approximately $10 million. In August 22, Nigeria, the last polio endemic country in Africa, was declared wild polio-free. This proves that our efforts are steadily bearing fruit towards polio eradication. Pakistan and Afghanistan are the last wild polio-based strongholds, and we must continue working together to eradicate polio in these countries. Japan, in cooperation with UNICEF, is providing assistance to Pakistan and Afghanistan this year as well, and will steadily continue our effort in this regard. Furthermore, Japan will work closely with the international community to drive global efforts to achieve more resilient, equitable, and sustainable universal health coverage through strengthening health system. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Japan. Now we move to Korea. Please help me welcome our next guest on stage, Mr. Sang-min Lee, Chancellor of the Embassy of the Republic of Korea in Germany.
Thank you. I first wish to sincerely thank Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus and Minister Svenja Schulze for hosting this very meaningful event. The international community is nearing the goal of polio eradication. I believe the spearheading role played by the GPEI has been particularly instrumental in this regard. However, we are not there yet. We still need to go the last mile in the efforts toward the complete eradication. Today's event marks an important step along this path. The Republic of Korea has long supported the international community's fight against infectious disease. Moreover, Korea is actively joining global efforts to bring COVID-19 to an earlier end, as well as playing its part in the task of building resilient and inclusive global health systems. I'm truly honored to announce my government's new contribution to the GPEI as part of the endeavors to prevent the polio eradication campaign from backsliding due to COVID-19. It is our profound wish to play our part in the last mile push. The government of the Republic of Korea pledges to contribute 4.5 billion Korean won in the year of 2023, which is equivalent to about 3.2 million US dollars. But this is now awaiting the approval of the National Assembly. And furthermore, I wish to reaffirm that Korea plans to continue its contribution even beyond 2023. Thank you for your kind attention.
You. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you very much. Now we hear two virtual messages from honorable representatives from Luxembourg and Monaco.
Luxembourg has been supporting the work of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative financially since 1988, providing, among other things, flexible and predictable funding through its multi-annual strategic partnerships with the WHO. Still, the recent outbreaks and the resurgence of cases in polio-free declared countries should put us all on alert and remind us that it is too early to let our guard down. If we want to see the end of polio, we need to ensure that every single person on Earth has access to immunization and basic health services. We need to ensure that gender-related barriers to immunization and disease surveillance are properly identified and addressed. Together, we have the means to eradicate polio and to go that extra mile. By providing the GPEI with all the possible support it needs, we can control and avoid further outbreaks. Therefore, it is my honor to announce today that Luxembourg will increase its support to the GPEI by 300,000 euro this year, bringing our total contribution to 1.7 million euro for the 2022 and 2023 period. Luxembourg commits itself to supporting the fight against polio until the last child is reached. Let's make it happen. Luxembourg has been
Ms. Chair, it's a great pleasure to be present today. Monaco is a long-standing supporter and partner of GPEI. Eradicating polio worldwide is one of our priorities. We would like to take this opportunity for once again commend the tireless work undertaken by polio workers, mainly women, for reaching every child. This is also my pleasure to announce today that, subject to the promulgation of budget law, the Prince's government has decided to pledge 450,000 euros for the period 2022-2026. COVID disruptions in health services, in particular routine immunization campaigns in the past years, including in Europe, have shown how fragile are the progresses made so far. The Principality of Monaco wishes and hopes that by the end of 2026 we will be able to celebrate the eradication of polio and that no more child will be paralyzed. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And for now, we welcome then our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Borja Luis Cabezon Royo, Ambassador of Spain on special mission for the COVID-19 crisis and global health.
Thank you for the invitation to this moment of remembering that we are still in the last mile to stop this terrible disease. Thank you to all the people, countries, and organizations that have been working so hard financially and personally for many years. The COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us that no country is safe from health threats until all are safe. It has also shined a light of long-standing inequities that exist in our society, inequities that must be addressed if we are to achieve a safer, healthier, and more peaceful world. Polio infrastructure has been widely used as a first line of defense against COVID-19, Ebola, and other health emergencies. Investment in polio eradication is an investment in the future of global health. The need for international collaboration to address shared health threats has never been greater. Health security and health equity remain key pillars of ensuring of collective prosperity in terms of health, economic opportunity, scientific advancement, peace, and security. All of these are connected and all are reliant on health. Through our work to bridge global health and foreign policy, we also have an important opportunity to be a voice for health workers around the world, like those on front lines of polio eradication, many of whom are women, that are fighting each day to serve their communities despite many pressures and challenges. As we met at the World Health Summit, and it is an important moment for global commitment to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, Spain remains committed to work together with all of you, and Spain feels and knows that it is time when polio eradication is near, is not the time to withdraw support for polio eradication, and therefore maintains its commitment in this year 2022 of 100,000 euros, and we have done in recent years 2021 and 2020. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so very much from Spain. Now let's hear from our next speaker representing the UAE. It's a pleasure to welcome His Excellency Dr. Hussein Abdul Rahman Al Rand, Assistant Undersecretary for the Ministry of Health and Prevention. Sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your Excellencies, distinguished guest, partner, and delegate, I would like to start by thanking Honorable Minister Savina Schulz and Professor Dr. Tedros, Director of WHO, our estimated partner of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative for convening Global Champion of Polio Eradication here in Berlin today. On behalf of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of United Arab Emirates, it's my privilege to gather with you and reconfirm that United Arab Emirates is committed to ending polio in the world. The United Arab Emirates has been dedicated partner on the journey since 2011, and we were proud to host the Global Polio Eradication Initiative pledged event at 2013 Vaccine Summit and 2019 Reaching the Last Mile Forum in Abu Dhabi. Achieving a polio-free world is priority for United Arab Emirates, and we will continue to support Global Polio Eradication Initiative, both through our support for global program and through our Emirate Polio Champion during 2020 and 2026 strategy period. Support from UAE Emirate Polio Champion has ensured that 17 million children in Pakistan received polio vaccination this year. To date, the champion has delivered 647 million doses of polio and vaccine, and trained and developed more than 500,000 health workers. Our global commitment to Global Polio Eradication Initiative will also continue to support outbreak response worldwide. This is a critical period for polio eradication. The polio situation in Pakistan over the last 2 years has demonstrated that eradication is within reach, but that we cannot be compliant. The UAE is proud to join other donors today to reconfirm to ending polio and ensure that no child is ever again paralyzed by this disease in the world. Thank you.
We are nearing the end of our program, but before that, let's hear from the Islamic Food and Nutritional Council of America, and representing them, Dr. Mohammed Chaudhry.
to all the workers around the world working for this cause. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of IFANCA, also known as the Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of America, I'm proud to be here today to join UNICEF and its partners in their mission to eradicate polio. The issue is extremely important to us. IFANCA is a small nonprofit organization based in USA, and we promise to invite other small NGOs into this work and fold. Our primary mission is to promote food security and health equity, and partnering with UNICEF has enabled us to work towards health equity for children and their communities. In 2021, we committed to helping UNICEF USA combat the COVID-19 pandemic. We formed a long-term partnership dedicated to addressing access, availability, and acceptability of vaccinations for people all over, because we firmly believe that none of us are safe unless all of us safe. Now we are furthering our commitment by joining the pledge to eradicate polio. Over the next 3 years, we will give $1.8 million to fund the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Addressing food security and health equity is essential to our faith of Islam. And it is also a fundamental principle of our organization. In the Holy Quran, it states, whoever saves a life, it will be as if they saved all of humanity. We pledge to work together to prevent the loss of life and save humanity. Please join us pledging your support to eradicate polio. We are in. Thank you.
So let's hear this last video pledge announcement. Michael Bloomberg, of course, Mr. Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg Philanthropies and WHO Global Ambassador for Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries.
Thanks to the work of health workers, governments, and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, polio cases have been reduced by more than 99%. This is an incredible achievement and means 20 million children have been spared from polio paralysis. But unfortunately, polio has been making a comeback this year, and until we fully eradicate it from the world, it poses a risk to people everywhere. Since 2013, Bloomberg Philanthropies has been glad to support the work of the Global Polio Program. Global Polio partners have a promising strategy to strengthen health systems in affected countries, and it's up to all of us to persuade more governments to step up their support. We cannot lose sight of our goal. The Bloomberg team is recommitting to the fight to end polio, and we're grateful for the hard work and partnership of everyone here today.
Thank you so much, Bloomberg Philanthropies. It is now my pleasure to welcome Dr. Chris Elias, President of Global Development, to come forward and give a, okay, I did it the other way around. I beg your pardon. I just wanted to check that you are awake. That was deliberate. Let me welcome on stage Mr. Ian Risley, Chair of the Rotary Foundation.
Thank you very much, Reddy. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My first comment is that But Minda, you make the rest of us feel totally inadequate, can I tell you that? Yeah. On behalf of 1.4 million Rotary members, I'd like to sincerely thank Minister Schulz and the great nation of Germany for hosting this very important pledging event. Because standing here today gives me great hope. A great hope that collectively we will achieve our shared goal of a polio-free world, one in which no child will ever again be paralyzed by this terrible disease. And it's crucial during moments like these to recognize the tremendous progress. It's been mentioned already this morning. And it wasn't all that long ago when, on average, 1,000 children a day were paralyzed by polio. And that number, has been said several times, has been significantly reduced by 99.99%, and all of us are proud of that achievement. But the job is not yet done. And recent media coverage of detection of polio in previously polio-free countries, such as Malawi, Israel, United Kingdom, USA, demonstrates what we've been saying all along. Polio is only a plane ride away, and that while polio exists anywhere, it's a threat everywhere. And this seems like an opportune moment for the global community to recommit to the goal set back in 1988 and ensure that the resources and the political will are fully available to protect children from polio paralysis while building more robust health systems to respond to other health threats. And that's why today, as previously announced, Rotary is committing an additional $150 million to the global effort to eradicate polio. And we are proud to stand in solidarity with all of you who have made commitments today and who will make future commitments. No pressure, you'll make future commitments, such as that we can deliver on our promise of a polio-free world. Dr. Tedros, we also like statues. Outside our headquarters in the suburb of Chicago is a statue reflecting immunizing children against polio. We're ambitious, we're optimistic, because together we will end polio. Thank you. And now it's a pleasure for me to welcome on stage Dr. Chris Elias of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
So as chair of the Polio Oversight Board, the governing body for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, I want to thank you, Ian, and all Rotarians all around the world for your continued commitment to ending polio. You know, Rotary was central to the Gates Foundation's joining the fight against polio eradication. And since then, our joint partnership has raised $1.8 billion through our funding match initiative and helped to deliver incredible progress toward eradication. So I'm delighted to announce today the extension of our 2-to-1 funding match with Rotary for an additional 3 years, which will help raise at least $150 million each year until we're done. Wow. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is extremely proud to work with Rotary in this final mile of polio eradication. Thank you.
Thanks.
I know we're at time, so I'm going to be brief. As you, I think, heard earlier this week, the Gates Foundation, our CEO, Mark Sussman, and Bill Gates by video, we're proud to announce a new commitment from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation of $1.2 billion for GPEI's 2022 to 26 strategy. As you've heard from many, this comes against a backdrop of some setbacks this year that have undoubtedly been one of the more challenging years for global health writ large and for the drive to end polio. New polio detections in previously polio-free countries and the uptick in wild polio cases in Pakistan are significant setbacks to the program. But rather than discouraging us, as you've heard, we're not a discouraging group of people. These are stark reminders of why polio eradication is so important and needs to be finished now. It, in fact, encourages us to strengthen our resolve to stop this disease from paralyzing any other child. I believe we have a moral imperative to end this disease. But it's not only the right thing to do. Ending polio would actually have enormous health and economic benefits for generations to come. Not only would no family need to live in the fear of this devastating disease, doubling down on polio will lead to stronger health services delivered to at-risk communities, some of the most at-risk communities in the world, and in some of the hardest to reach places. It will also, by economic projections, save the world about $33 billion this century when compared against continuing to try and control this disease. So eradication is a good investment. And as you've heard from other speakers, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative has a clear plan to achieve one of the biggest victories in global health history. It's important as we talk about tiny numbers to remember how big they were just 34 years ago when the World Health Assembly declared the goal to eradicate polio, and that we are 99.999% of the way toward ending polio. So I'm honored to share this stage today with all of the donors who've committed their support, getting behind this strategy and finishing the job. And I want to thank all of the GPEI partners and the donors, those who made new pledges today, as well as those who've been stalwart supporters of this program along the way. And in particular, I want to thank the Minister Svenja Schulz, and the government of Germany for their longstanding partnership on global polio eradication and for co-hosting today's event. As Director General Tedros said, vielen Dank. Together, we can end polio. Please join me in thanking our hosts.
Thank you so much, Minister. I'm going to call you again to the stage to have the last word and invite all your honorable guests for a photo opportunity, but you have the floor now, Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the German government, I would like to thank you all, these many distinguished speakers, for these inspiring remarks, for the stories, and for the pledges. That's important. So the contributions towards GPEI's 2022 to 2026 strategy are really vital to ensuring that no child is paralyzed by polio, and that the infrastructure and the assets used to fight polio lay the foundation for a healthier world for the years to come. So Tedros, I'm really honored, and we should do that together. I'm really honored to thank you for the really generosity of the donors. We have raised a total US dollars of 2.6 billion towards GPEI strategy.